Hi, welcome back to My Heart Doth Beg You Not Forget for MMEA Western District. Right to it. Singers, we have words, rhythm, and pitches to accurately convey. All require our attention. In an earlier segment, I addressed our text for My Heart Doth Beg, misattributed to Orlando de Lasso, which is also not strictly a madrigal. Go have a look at that lesson. It'll be better for you if you do. Why? This, arguably not madrigal, is mostly homophonic, with just a few linear flourishes. And this results in an excellent text clarity, but it can be less expressive than we'd hope. If we fail to create a deeply musical expression with our voices, this piece can get pretty dull for listeners. And you don't want to be dull. You'll begin to get this after you've practiced it 10 times. It's better in harmony, but still, more about the text and ensemble than it is about the vocalism. So be expressive. Now, we'll need to address rhythm, text, and pitches for musicianship, breath with expression for musicality, and breath and pitch and text integration for the ensemble. Number 1, for rhythm. Keep a steady pulse for yourself as part of the ensemble and never let it drop. For rhythm reading assistance, please see a rhythm coaching module or go to teoria.com. We have to fit your text to the rhythm, loosely and gently. Try leaving off most of the consonants, and try making the vowels as smoothly and connected to the consonants next. So let's try this. My heart doth beg you'll not forget, my heavy heart with sorrow aching, in spite of jealousizing yet, one last farewell we might be taking. So loose, easy, open there, and connected. And let's do the B section. Once smiles my lips were ever curving, and gracious words were all they knew. Now alone for cursing, they're serving those who banish me. Love from you. We'll observe the retard there. And then we just repeat that text. So for phrase shaping, ignore the markings mostly. Let's use your musical intuition and some strategic breath work. Now for number 2, notice your breath. Breathe at the commas and speak line 2. Are you out of breath or feeling tight, cramped, or compressed? You need to adjust your airflow. For example, we skipped line 1 and we'll start at, in spite of jealousizing yet, one last farewell we might be taking. Do you sound like that? Or do you sound at the end of it, one last farewell we might be taking? Or one last farewell we might be taking? We want it easy. We don't want air left over, and we don't want air left stuck in, and we don't want you to be squeezing your air. So, in order to use more air, you're going to have to exhale more. And if you want to use less air, you have to think of inhale and keep that position of expanded ribs as you allow the air to spin out. Instead of squeezing out the air for higher tones, we think softer. And then we use more air for lower tones and phrase ends. Another thought for breath is to be sure to steal time for breaths. Cut off a little bit of time in your phrase at the ends of tones to create space for your breath. So, for example, on a half note, you'd cut off the end and come in on time on the next note. So you would create, for example, a dotted quarter note and an eighth rest, and then you breathe in the eighth rest and enter in time for the next word or pitch. Next, use your breath well. Keep your breath well managed, comfortable, and easy all the way through your phrases. Again, never squeeze your breath. For pitches, again, think of softer tones at the top, and lower tones are going to be louder to use more breath. Mark your solfeggio in your score for your tricky tones. And start with singing your pitches without rhythm to establish the leaps and explore your approach to the difficult spots. Using the soprano line, so I abridged that, but the idea is to sing it without the rhythm and to gently explore it without feeling again, without the rhythm, and also without feeling the text and the vowels and all that. You're just going to get your voice to work up and down freely on your breath. Now, after you find the pitches well, Add the rhythm and phrase shapes. After the pitches are easy and in rhythm, add the vowels. And then add your consonants, just barely. I'll show you. For the same spot, let's add the rhythm. Easy, loose, and open without the with the vowels, but gently on the pitches. Make sure we're in the right key. Voila, on pitch. Breath here. If you don't want a breath there, you don't have to, but that's an escape hatch. And now let's add a little bit more of the vowels themselves and the phrase shape. So we're going to be definitely softer on top, louder on the bottom, and the real vowels in place. I'm sure you recognize this lovely tune. So if you get good at it and you can do it softly and gently, which is good for sopranos, trust me, they always want us to be softer, don't they? So keep it as soft as you are comfortable with and on your breath, and you ought to be able to make those phrases just fine. Now, number 3, listen to the recording and sing along or sing your part with the 3 other parts. You can find the recording link in the description below to MMEA Western District for this literature in 2024. Other literature will be found in 25, 26, and 27 in the 4-year cycle. For our next segment, we'll talk about expression. Be sure to see the text module mentioned above, and be sure your face and body are telling your story. How are you feeling when you say this text? Is your face enhancing that, or is it interfering? How about your appearance, your clothing, how you move and how you move your body? Is your hair out of your face? Doesn't have to be perfect, we just need to see your face. Next, musicality. More than expressive text on pitch, we need breath. Breath creates musicality for singers like nothing else. Soft tops, loud lower tones, and breath growth and movement for meaning surge the breath on the pitch. All of these help that essential musical quality for expression. Let's try it at one last farewell. And I'll show you what I mean about the surge. So the text would be one last farewell we might be taking. So think about it with a pulse. One last farewell we might be taking. For the sopranos, everybody else is a little bit less florid. For example, the bass line. One last farewell we might be taking. We surge the breath on the important words and a little bit on the meter, but mostly we have to think about the line because the meter will be there because everyone else is carrying it with us that we're singing. So we have to think about our line to keep the voice functioning as it's supposed to. So let's do that surge on pitch. So the ing of taking is quieter than taking, so we have to be sure to lift up on that even though it's lower for sopranos and for the tenors. So that gives you a demo on that. Let's try it with Once My Lips with Smiles Were Ever Curving. And we're slightly having a minor moment here. So we have once smiles my lips were ever curving, and gracious words were all they knew. And again, even though that's lower, it's it doesn't really sound too good to smack it. But again, you'll feel it and you'll decide for yourselves. But that's an idea for you to have a space to make a choice there. Now let's contrast it with now alone for cursing, which is arguably the hardest phrase in the whole piece. So there is a ritardando at the end of this. So if you don't have your score yet, please pause and go get it. So the text would be, now alone for cursing, they're serving those who banish me, love from you. And we take a breath between me and love. So it's, now alone for cursing, they're serving those who banish me, love from you. So we take our breath there, and again with the surge. Now alone for cursing, they're serving those who banish me, love from you. So when the breath moves, we get emotion and we get meaning, and we also get dynamic variation. All repeated text requires new meaning. So consider your face and your body. Again, anything not working to tell the story works against you. What is your breath doing? As we repeat the A section, you must consider these notions. Finally, enjoy your music. Enjoy the ensemble. Sing with your friends, sing without a conductor and without the recording once you're all ready. When you're singing, listen to each other and feel the pulse together without a conductor. And again, especially not with the recording. If you cannot hear others easily, it's time to sing more softly. Always. Now let's go through each part with some helpful hints. I'll start with the soprano line. So here we are with the soprano line, and I will give you some helpful diction and breath hints. So we want to start with just a medium breath. Again, we're ignoring the dynamics because they're sort of like a giant iron shackle on your artistry. So let's just not go there. And they're usually wrong. Usually. So sopranos take a medium breath. My heart doth bear you not forget. You will notice that we've done an R-ectomy. Anytime you have an R in an English text next to a T, you can omit it comfortably, and you'll notice that I've left it out in the heart and also forget, and we did what we call a liaison. In this case, it's actually an elision, not forget, instead of not to forget, because we don't want to spit on each other if we don't have to. And everybody's going to be like right here when you're singing together, so let's just enjoy the whole not spitting thing. So not forget. So you can explode the final T, but do the R-ectomy here, and of course for the rest of you in the other lines as well. Going on. My heavy heart with sorrow aching. So again, we have our R-ectomy on heart, we have an exploded T on heart this time, and we have a buzzed M on my heavy, and the E sound of heavy is actually an I. So it's not my heavy, which we'll talk about in the technique section, but this is a little bit more toward E, not away from E and into I. My heavy heart with sorrow aching. And another important detail is the th sound. When you have TH in sung scores, we want to have ed, which is the D with the little slash in its stem, which is the sound of th for the. And it gives you a chance to stay legato instead of taking your larynx offline. Going on. And we did a tiny, tiny little glottal stroke for aching. That's possible, rather than sorrow waking, but sorrow aching. Little tiny bubble pop there. And yes, sopranos, that's a diminuendo that's marked and correct for you. But don't sing it, because that's going to be something that everyone else can do. Because you can do sorrow aching as you move downward. So as you leap from with to sorrow, ignore that crescendo and diminuendo there because you're leaping up, and otherwise you'll probably overshadow everyone. Moving on, and there's a pianissimo mark for you at that second system on the third bar sopranos. Please ignore the pianissimo marking. Most everyone under the age of 40 who sees that ties themselves into a knot. So let's use just your good sense and start at a medium volume and use the word and with a tiny glottal stroke. And despite of jealous eyes yet. And we'll discuss the next bit later. So a for and, you can squish together the despite of, jealous eyes, yet, legato there, diminuendo on yet. And let's prepare for our high note on our F. We're going to use a little oo sound and a spoken W. Ooh-wah. Lost farewell. So use that to help you there. And before your L of lost, and let's use ah. If your choral director wants ah, I won't fault them. But it's lovely to sing ah there, and you can certainly make an argument for it. I don't know if Miriam Chase, our translator, is British or American, but either way, it sounds better and feels better with an open ah rather than the American ah there for last. You see what I mean? So before the L, you put a schwa in, like not saying oh, but last, like you're saying alone, last. So put a tiny little shadow schwa e in there, or unaccented e, like alone. And then we have our friend e in the word we. It's the only one you really have to sing in this, which is probably why it's been chosen. But use as schwa oi, and don't say e. And we'll talk about that again in the vocal technique section. So, one last farewell, we might be taking. And you really don't need very much glide on your diphthong, taking. Think of it as a little I. A nice A that's nice and big, and then the I is small, like the end of a pig, like its little tail curling up. Taking. And that's also going to diminuendo and curl up even further. So here, and I might have sung that wrong once, but you have to go down to the G, and it's tricky and easy to miss, so it's a good time to review it, sopranos. Please circle it in your score. Page 2, third page 2, third bar, third beat on the G. Just be sure you're circling it and making sure you're going there. Might be two, might be two. Breath here if you want. Still on A. King. And phonate on your ng. Moving on. We don't want to voice the ng. It doesn't want to be louder, but you're going to diminuendo, taking. And you'll have to inhale as you drop your tongue. And this is true for everybody. And it requires a little practice. It's worth it. Definitely following the piano marking there. Moving on to the second system on page 2. Once smiles my lips were ever curving. So you can use once and then take a Luftpause. Once smiles my lips were ever curving. Diminuendo on ing because that's the way the word is. Taking a breath. Still it's a real word in British English and American English. And gracious words were all they knew. So we have curving with the R-ectomy, and we have were with the R-ectomy. Words has an R-ectomy. Gracious, you have to say the R. That gets us all caught up there. Ever is also an R-ectomy word. So once smiles my lips were ever curving, and gracious words were all they knew. And this is true for everyone. Moving on, let's just make sure that there are no other removals we need. Now alone for cursing, more R-ectomies there. For cursing, they're serving those who banish me love from you. So, going on for a demo there. And gracious words were all they knew. And we want a glide there. We don't want new, we want new for meaning. And mezzo piano, not softer. Now alone for cursing, they're serving those who banish me love from you. And we will talk about making those vowels properly in the vocal technique section. A couple of little things you'll want to know is that schwa, banish me, breath, love, like a little the schwa again, love from you. And that's it. Then we move on to the bottom of page 3, second system, where you have a new idea for the same text. So maybe more intense, maybe a little faster, maybe a little louder, maybe you're feeling despondent rather than just sad, or maybe you're feeling angry. So you can make the choice there. I imagine your colleagues in your group will have to make similar choices so that you won't be fighting each other. Alto line. Let's start back at page 1. Again, ignoring the dynamic markings pretty much. Start at least a medium volume because we'll want you to be louder. And do not crescendo, but rather when you go up for the word beg, you're going to diminuendo and you're going to crescendo or grow the tone toward the end of your phrase. 1, 2. My heart doth beg you'll not forget. And again with the arectomies you got from the soprano line. My every heart with sorrow aching. And this is one of those moments, altos, because this drops down to a C, which is not great in your register. You might not want a crescendo there. You'll have to feel how it feels for you, because if it pops out of the texture, then what's the point? So definitely grow and keep the tone lively, but maybe not so much of a growth there. Moving on. With sorrow aching. Tiny bubble pop glottal. Moving on. Again, not pianissimo. And despite of jealous eyes yet. 3, 4, 1. One last farewell we might be taking. So you're going to crescendo even more on your lower tones, and you will also be wanting to emphasize those crunchy sounds. Another clue for polyphony is, folks, when you are moving, that's when you have the calm. That's when you are in charge. So if you have a longer note, a half note, or even a whole note in other artists, you'll need to back off and quelle surprise, listen. So soft on the long notes, louder on the moving notes for you, altos, and everyone else. So louder on moving notes. So moving on to the next section, at once smiles my lips were ever curving. And again, not smacking the low C. Probably not piano. Once smiles my lips were ever curving, and gracious words were all they knew. Now alone for cursing, deserving those who banish me, love from you. And again, singing those M's. We talked about phonating on M a little bit earlier. Especially important here, altos, because this is not the loudest part of your range, and we want to hear all of that happening. Because guess what? The tenors are on your note. And who knows how good their diction is going to be, tenors. Better show them that you got it. And then we're going to go on to the repeated section, which you already know. Let's move on to the tenor line. Tenors, I don't mean to diss you, but you do have the hardest part. And occasionally, you take over the altos. It's just not fair. So I'm going to sing this in my comfortable register, because me singing down there is really uncomfortable. Some people really like to sing there, and that might be one of you folks who's an uncertain singer. And I have a PDF for you that you can read about understanding your instrument and choosing your voice type. But for now, let's find what it sounds like for me singing an octave up and a tenor who is singing classically here and is comfortable here with this range. So I'll sing it here. Tenors who have a tenor voice are right here. So 1, 2, ready. My heart, I beg you'll not forget, my heavy heart with sorrow aching. So again, your part is not the easiest one, as you noticed, and following the same surging sorrow aching, pulling away and going on. And despite of jealous eyes in yet. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. One last farewell we might be taking. not the easiest line. So bravo, tenors. New section, complete with arectomies with farewell. And we'll go on to once smiles my lips. 1, 2, ready. Once smiles my lips were ever curving, and gracious words were all they knew. Now alone for cursing they're serving those who banish me, love from you. And then we repeat, verbatim. Ah, basses, it's your turn. Again with the arectomy, we all start homophonically. And yes, you're at the bottom. I'll be singing here. Here's you. 1, 2, ready. My heart doth beg you not forget my heavy heart with sorrow aching, and spite of jealous eyes e'en yet. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1. One last farewell we might be taking. And this goes quite low for a young bass. So if you feel a little unsure about every other note except that low G, you're still a bass. Don't worry about it. If it seems a little gravelly or a little fuzzy, we all know that you're not a professional singer. So be who you are, sing the part where you're comfortable, and if that note is troublesome, please try not to obsess about it. One thing that most young basses will do here is try to press down to make that tone come out. Believe it or not, that's exactly the wrong thing to do. So you have to let your voice stay here and let your larynx work and let the folds flap around a little. And the more your voice gets used to it, the easier it'll feel. So for example, you might want to say, one last farewell we might be taking, when you actually should do, one last farewell we might be taking. It will make your voice so much happier, and it'll circumvent years of correction that you might have to go through in college. So don't press down as you go low. Moving on to the next section, taking you on the second measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once smiles my lips were ever curving, and gracious words were all they knew. Now alone for cursing they're serving those who banish me, love from you. And that's a huge leap, basses, so just be ready as you take that breath after me. Banish me. And use your schwa E that we've talked about. Love from you. And really give us that real true ooh vowel. So that should give you a lot of hints about your line. You and your teacher should feel free to write to me or contact me if you like with questions, or if you'd like a classroom visit. I really am happy to help. Thanks for watching, and keep on singing.